It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
And welcome into another edition of Musso at the box. LSU wins the series versus Auburn. They take 2 out of 3. Their second consecutive SEC series win. They are now 7-14 in the league, 28-17 overall. They will face Grambling in the midweek and then welcome in the top-ranked Texas A&M Aggies. It was an interesting weekend for LSU. Sunday, no doubt, was a bummer, and we will get into that. That was a wet blanket on an otherwise great weekend for the Tigers. I will not sit here and deny that in the slightest. But what I also will not do is sit here and look at this weekend as anything other than a positive. LSU did a lot of good this weekend, and they're right where we had them. Prediction-wise, when we went through this before the second half of the season started, they're right there at 7-14. So they are pacing on track to where we thought they would be. Yes, you had a great opportunity to sweep this series, and that is why Sunday is so disappointing. Sunday is disappointing because it is a familiar refrain that we've seen with this baseball team, where they dug a deep hole early, and it ended up being too deep for them to climb out of. But they didn't quit in that game. They kept trying to fight. You saw some really nice relief performances from guys who otherwise had struggled this season as well on Sunday. There were positives, but ultimately you lost the game, and it was a very winnable game and a chance for you to sweep a series and give yourself a little bit more leeway in the math that you have to work out over the next few weeks, and you couldn't do it. So yes, that is disappointing, but overall the weekend is a big success for LSU. Yes, I said big success for LSU because I don't care who you're playing. I don't care where you're playing them. Any series you win from here on out after the way this season started for them in conference play is a big success, and this one is as well. So we will go through Sunday. We will look at all the missed opportunities. We will look at the decision to start Kade Anderson. We will look at all of it. We will have a big comprehensive recap of that ball game, and then we will also touch on the rest of the weekend as well because, as I said, it was filled with positives. So y'all smash the like button if you have not already. Get subscribed up to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Get subscribed up on your favorite podcast app. Follow me on social media. All of that is greatly, greatly appreciated. All right, let's dive into it. Let's just start right at the front here. LSU goes Kade Anderson to start the ball game. And look, it's an interesting decision. It's an interesting decision for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's going to be his first start in conference play. He has struggled mightily in conference play. We talked about that previously in the week leading up to this series because the question came up after his effort on Tuesday night against Nichols and pointed out that, look, Kade Anderson had only pitched, I think, to that point about 2 2/3 innings in conference play. Teams were hitting over 500 against him, and he had an ERA in conference games only just under 17. And I pointed to that and said, that's why you have not seen a lot of him. So keep that in mind when we talk about this start, because that is part of this. There's other parts of it that we'll get to, but that is also part of this. That's the guy they went to in this spot. And that absolutely matters in how things played out. And I'll explain what I mean by that momentarily. The other thing you have to consider in this is Anderson had a lot of bad luck in that inning. Stanfield, to lead off the game, smoked that double. That ball was barreled. It was a rocket. And we're not going to take anything away from him. But you look at Kade Anderson after that, Auburn helps him out with a pop-up bunt. That's 1 out. Cooper McMurray, a very dangerous hitter, comes up, strikes out looking on a dandy breaking ball, and it looks like Anderson's going to get out of it. And then Carter Wright caps a single over Jared Jones's head at first base and scores a run. There was not one stitch on that baseball that was hit hard, but it was hit in the right spot, and it gets Auburn on the board. And then Christian Hall comes up and beats the shift on a ball that was not hard hit. If your infield's playing regular, it's an out and you're out of the inning. Weiss is hit by a pitch on a breaking ball, That's an error by Kade Anderson, obviously. Ballou comes up and beats the shift on another softly hit line drive. Scores another run at that point. Actually, I'm sorry, that scored 2 runs. So at that point, you're down 3-0, and then you go to the bullpen, and you go to Will Helmers. Helmers would ultimately give up, there'd be a wild pitch that would advance the runners. He'd give up a double to left field that scored 2 more. You're down 5-0. Let's go to Kade Anderson, back to Kade Anderson. So you see what I mean. Like, you have to take all of it into account in his start. The struggles he had in conference play, and then the bad luck. That tells the story here. And when I look at this, I think to myself, and I think back to what Jay Johnson has said in the past, and he's often talked about not asking a pitcher to do more than they're capable of, and I think they did that in an instance here with Kade Anderson. Kade Anderson pitched Tuesday night and pitched a lot. 4 innings. That was like his longest outing since March. 4 innings, and he threw 62 pitches. And on 4 days rest, you're asking him to turn around and go back out there. It was never going to be a long outing. Like, I don't think they were ever going to extend him. But still, 62 pitches on Tuesday, and you ask him to come back on Sunday. That's a tall task. You add in the fact that you're asking him to do it in conference play, making his first start where he has struggled. That's a lot. And then you can get into the shift. And I think this plays into it as well. Because here's my take on the shift in baseball, right? Here it is. People ask all the time, thoughts on the shift. Here are my thoughts on the shift. I think the shift in college baseball is bad. And here's why. Because conversely, I think the shift in Major League Baseball is good, and I actually don't like that they banned it. You're professional hitters. Learn to hit. Learn how to hit again. But this is why I think it's bad in college baseball. Sure, it works from time to time, understood. But in the Major League level, the reason they banned it is because it worked too much. Because those pitchers are good enough to pitch to the shift time and time and time again. They can put a baseball wherever they want. They are the best of the best. That's why they play Major League Baseball. That is not the case in college. Guys cannot pitch to the shift to that level for it to be foolproof. And I think that plays in to asking Kade Anderson to do too much in this situation where he struggled in conference play. And you're asking him to be real fine up there, and he just couldn't necessarily do it. And part of that, you credit Auburn's hitter. They beat the shift. Like, analytics are what they are. They beat them there, but I think it's just a combination. So I didn't like the decision to start Kade Anderson. And that's real easy for you to look at me saying that now and go hindsight, but I didn't like it to begin with. When we talked in our immediate reaction and everyone asked who's going to start, Kade Anderson was not one of the names I gave you. Because I was not going to be in favor of that. And for all the reasons we just went through is why. I think they asked him to do a little bit more than he was capable of in that moment. And I think the struggles in conference play for him are real. Kade Anderson's going to have a great career at LSU. He's going to have better days than he did Sunday. This is not to crush Kade Anderson. I think if you've listened to this show before, you know how fond I am of him and his potential at LSU. But this felt like a spot where you were asking him to do a little bit too much. So the next logical question to ask me after I get through that is, okay, well, who do you start? And I know a lot of you want me to say Griffin Herring, but I'm not going to say Griffin Herring. Not starting Griffin Herring is not the reason you lost the baseball game today. It's not even the reason you were down 5 runs. Could you have started Herring? Sure. But you would have gotten the same outing out of him that you did, and that was 4 1/3, 64 pitches. That's the whole reason they don't. I would have started probably Thatcher Hurd or Javen Coleman or Sam Dutton and just let them get you off to a start. Shorten the game to where you can get to Herring, because that's your whole goal. And I think a veteran arm would have been better than the true freshman in that spot. That's all I'm saying. You could have started Griffin Herring, and I would have been okay with it. Like, you could have. I'm not saying it would have been a bad move to do that. Contrary, it probably would have been a really good move to do that. But I also understand Jay Johnson's thinking with that is, okay, he's not fully stretched out as a starter, so where do I want the 4 1/3 from him? Do I want it out of the bullpen, or do I want it at the start? You want to shorten the game as much as you can because the pitching depth has struggled on this team. So I fully understand the thinking there. Like, I do, 100%. So, I mean, I can't honestly sit here and tell you, because what you would have gotten out of Herring is what you would have gotten out of Herring. Period. Now you look at the rest of the way the game played out and you had guys step up. Great. Maybe that opens the door in the future for you now to do that. But this idea that they just need to put Griffin Herring into that starting spot is not the right idea. It would have been today. Like, that's the thing. That's where that does become frustrating, right? Because I can look at today at Sunday and say, man, yeah, that would have been a great spot to start Griffin Herring because you had won the series. He's your best arm. He's rested. He's ready to go. Throw him out there. Let him get you off to a good start. Your offense has been good, not great this weekend. Could they string some at-bats together and maybe you have a big enough lead going late into that ball game? Like, that I can get behind. But if you are somebody who just wants them to pencil Griffin Herring into spot number 3, no. Because if you need him to win a game on Friday night, you throw him to win a game on Friday night. But in a situation like this, yeah, I could have gotten down. You had the series locked up. I could have gotten down with starting Griffin Herring. But, again, I understand Jay's thinking there. I do. So, for me, in going with his thinking, I would have liked to have seen Hurd or Coleman or even Dutton, somebody to just get you off to a good start, shorten the game at the front. That way you have Herring at the back. There were better ways to do it. I did not love their approach, and they found themselves down 5-0. So that's my spiel on that whole situation. I hope that was very, very clear. Like, I hope I got my message across. I'm not saying the decision with Herring was right or wrong. I could see both sides of it. I think it actually would have been a good thing to start him. What I didn't like was the situation that they put Kade Anderson into. That's what I didn't like, for a multitude of reasons that we just went through. LSU would go weekly in the bottom of the first, 3 up, 3 down. Griffin Herring faces the minimum in the second with the help of a double play. LSU again, 3 up and 3 down in the second, and then in the third, LSU mounts their first real threat. Braswell walks to lead it off, and then Milazzo singles. So 7 and 9 reach base for you to start the inning. That's massive. Mac Bingham fouled out, and that was a gruesome at bat. And then Ashton Larson, freshman phenom, singles to right field and gets LSU on the board. That was a huge swing because if you would have wasted a leadoff walk in that spot after the way your first 2 innings went at the plate, and then that you went walk, foul out, single, foul out, that would have been a really tough pill to swallow. But Larson gets you on the board with the single. Unfortunately, Tommy White would pop up, and that would end that frame. Big 0 put up in the fourth by Griffin Herring. Pitched around a single there, and then and did it relatively quickly and got LSU's bats right back up to the plate. 2 quick flyouts from Jones, that one on 3-0, which did not love the decision for the green light there. You're down 5 runs at that point in the ball game, and you need base runners. That guy threw 3 straight out of the zone to start the inning. Just didn't love that spot. Pearson would fly out. But then Hayden Travinsky singles up the middle. Braswell singles to center field as well. And then Steven Milam from the right side smashes his 3rd home run of the season. And boy, he needed that because it had been a pretty rough weekend at the plate for Monster up to that point. So that was great to see him kind of not let the rest of the weekend weigh him down and come through with that home run in that big spot. And at that point, LSU is right back in the ballgame. It is 6-4, and you're feeling pretty good. You get another shutdown inning from Herring, 3 up and 3 down, but unfortunately LSU couldn't really make it stick. Auburn had brought in John Armstrong to start the 5th inning. Really liked that matchup. LSU saw him Friday night and really took some good swings off of him. And this was a similar part in the lineup. Like Larson saw him Friday night. White saw him Friday night. Unfortunately, he had some really good stuff today, and LSU couldn't touch him there. So after a ground out and a single, Christian Little came in for Griffin Herring. He would unfortunately give up a double and allow the inherited runner to score, but he bounced back incredibly strong after that. Ground out and then a strikeout looking a ground out and a strikeout looking there. And then you get to the sixth, and this is where it became really frustrating for the LSU offense because this is where they started just missing opportunities. Jones singles to start the sixth. Pearson walks. So you have first and second with nobody out, and you chase Armstrong. So there you go. Like, you started to get better swings off of him. You chase him. They bring in Will Cannon. And Hayden Travinski comes up with first and second and nobody out and strikes out swinging. He was ahead in the count 3-1 and struck out swinging. And that's a really tough at-bat to take right there in that moment. Because, yes, a 3-run home run would have tied the ball game, but, man, a base hit just helps you continue to chip away. And then you had just Jones tried to make an aggressive play on the base paths. It was not the right move for a guy of his speed. He read the ball down in the dirt. It kicked away from the catcher. He immediately took off. Again, it's an aggressive play, but it didn't bounce away far enough. Jones is not fast enough to get that. Credit the catcher. He made a great throw, and he's pegged at third, and you run yourself into an out, and then Braswell grounds out to shortstop. You have first and second, nobody out. You end up with nothing in that inning, and that is disappointing. Christian Little, great inning from him in the seventh. Ground out, strikeout, ground out, just very encouraging. We'll have more on him momentarily. And then the seventh inning, LSU's biggest missed opportunity of the ball game. Milam leads off with a walk. Milazzo collects his second hit of the ball game, fourth of the weekend, and singles up the middle, and then Bingham draws a walk. You have the bases loaded and nobody out in a 3-run ball game. And then the top of your order is up. Larson, White, Jones. That's the three hitters that are due up. Ashton Larson gets himself into a 2-2 count, fouls off a couple tough pitches, and then hits the sacrifice fly. He didn't punch. The kid, the understanding that he just already has of the strike zone, of what LSU wants, of everything, like what they're trying to accomplish on offense, it's massive. And, he moves the ball there. He moves the offense and gets you a run. Makes it 7-5. And now you have first and second, one out, White and Jones up. And White flies out to right field. Milazzo tags. And then Jones strikes out looking on 3 pitches. And the strikeout pitch was a fastball. It was very reminiscent of that inning against Arkansas in game number 2 when LSU had the bases loaded and nobody out, and Larson hits the sac fly, and then you can't get any. You hit into a double play in that, but you couldn't get anything else after it. And that is the inning I circle. When you have the bases loaded and nobody out, that is against a bullpen. That is a golden opportunity for a massive inning, and especially with the bats that you had up, and you got one run. And that's really when it kind of felt like the wind was just taken out of the sails in the ball game. LSU would have an opportunity in the 8th inning. They would not get anything. It was a 1-out double by Travinski. He would be stranded. And in the 9th, LSU went in order, 3 up and 3 down. That game's a bummer. But you look back at the rest of the weekend, and it was really good. And I want to get to that. But first, let me talk about a few guys individually from Sunday on the mound. Christian Little. Yes, as we said, it was disappointing that he allowed the inherited runner to score. But I love that he didn't let that defeat him. That run was charged back to Griffin Herring. So you look at this now, and that is 3 straight scoreless shutout outings from Christian Little dating back to Nichols. That's really encouraging. And he's been all over the strike zone in those outings. Like, go back to the Friday night outing he had. Christian Little threw 22 pitches. 16 of them were strikes. You could look at the game Sunday. Christian Little in that one threw 31 pitches. 20 of them were strikes. Y'all, we've been talking about that with him since the preseason. It's not hard. If he's in the zone, he's really darn good because the stuff is big league. So I'm encouraged by him having those 3 straight outings. You can tell me competition. I'm going to tell you I don't care. I don't care. The team on the other side has no bearing on your ability to throw strikes. That's what he's doing right now. And that's in quality strikes. Let me put it that way. The other team, they have no bearing on your ability to throw quality strikes. And that's what he's doing. And he's pitching really well. And that should be and feels like a really good sign for this team going forward. I thought Justin Lure was really good. Like, that's a guy who has struggled. There's no other way to talk. There's no other way to put that. He has struggled this year coming over from Xavier. But in a big spot, he gave you a shutout frame. Pitched around a couple. Like, he got himself in some trouble. Gave up 2 hits. But he also struck out 2. And he hung a 0. He didn't walk anybody. That's massive from Justin Lure. Like, when I think of his outings this year, I think of a lot of 3-ball counts. Not one guy got to a 3-ball count. He faced 4 hitters. Not one of them. Well, actually, hold on. Let me check the 9th because I remember that his second hit did come in the 9th. But no, that was on a 1-2 pitch. So he faced 5 hitters. None of them got to 3-ball count. That's hopefully a step in the right direction for him. And then y'all know I'm going to talk about Sam Dutton. Because for the life of me, I can't understand why we don't see more of Sam Dutton. Like, I do not understand. This is the second time you've seen him in conference play. And the thing that it maddens me. Like, it really does, y'all. It makes me mad that there aren't more innings for Sam Dutton because of the spots they put him in that he succeeds in. And it's still like, where's 17? Why is he not out there more? You realize the spot they put Sam Dutton in on Sunday? LSU's down 2 runs. There's a runner on with nobody out in the 9th inning, and 1, 2, and 3 in the order are due up. There, Sammy, go get him. Sammy strikes out the side. He just produces again. 13 pitches, 11 strikes. It's the same refrain. We went through this ad nauseum last year with him because he kept pounding the zone, pounding the zone, pounding the zone. That's what he does, but the strikes just weren't quality enough, and he got hammered. He added that little cutter this year, and the fastball's been more consistent, 93, 94. The breaking ball's already been very good. He's thrown more quality of strikes, and I think that cutter has a lot to do with why. And he's been awesome. He's been awesome in cleanup. He's been awesome in leverage. He's been awesome. The guy's got 2 walks on the season. One of them's intentional. That came Sunday against Cooper McMurray. I want more Sam Dutton innings. I'll say it again. I'll keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. Give me more Sam Dutton innings because I'm here for all of them. I think LSU has a weapon in the bullpen there, and I think they're not using it properly. I'll be flat out honest with you. I think they are not using Sam Dutton properly. I think them starting to do that could be a big lift for them as they go down the stretch. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not there every day. Maybe they're seeing something that I'm not. But what I am seeing is every time they put him in there, he's producing. For me, that makes me want to see more of him. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the other 2 games for the weekend. Then I'll give you some overarching thoughts. Man, Friday was really good. Friday was really good for LSU. Gage Jump was awesome. He gave you 7 shutout. I mean, that was exactly what you wanted to see from Gage Jump coming off that outing against Missouri. Like, the last 2 weeks, Gage Jump has looked like a front-of-the-line guy in the SEC. Let me actually rephrase that. Gage Jump has looked like the front-of-the-line guy in the SEC that we all thought he could be when you go back to preseason ball. Like, that's what he's looked like, and it was awesome. He pitched around some trouble a little bit. The pitch count looked like it was going to get away from him there after 5 innings, but he gritted through it and got you through 7 for 2 weeks in a row, this time on 101 pitches, and he did it differently. That's what I liked so much. The outing against Missouri was just pure domination, right? Pure domination from Jump. 14 strikeouts, 1 run, mowed him down, power stuff. Against Auburn, it was 7 shutout, no walks for the second week in a row, I believe for the second week in a row, 6 strikeouts. He pitched to contact a lot more. He used his defense, and they played very, very well behind him. But it was effective nonetheless. Offensively for LSU, early in the game, you tip your hat to Dylan Watts. That was the longest outing of the season for him. He was really dialed in, but LSU was managed to get a couple of solo home runs because, of course, they did. That's what this team does. They hit solo home runs. Tommy White and Hayden Chervinsky doing the honors there to get you the 2-0 lead. And then when you were finally able to chase Watts in the 6th, LSU's bats came alive. They put together some great at-bats. LSU was sitting on 2 hits after 5 innings. 2 hits, 2 runs after 5 innings in that game. They ended up with 5 runs on 9 hits. So you scored 3 more runs on 7 hits in the last 4 frames of that baseball game. None bigger than in the 7th when Alex Milazzo had the clutch double. I mean, that was just such a massive spot in the game. And for it to be a veteran hitter like Milazzo to come through, it not only gave you the breathing room you needed in the ball game, it allowed you to save Griffin Herring. So that was just a massive outing. So when I look at a massive opportunity and a massive I don't know what I'm trying to say. It was great execution by Alex Milazzo there. When I look at Friday, I love the dominant pitching. Then you saw Christian Little come in and just mow Auburn down. So your pitching was great, and you saved Herring. When from an offensive standpoint, you didn't have the best at-bats early, but you stuck with it. You improved. You made adjustments, and you hit a bullpen really well again. So that was encouraging for me from LSU. When you go to Saturday, I loved it. I know you can look at it and go, man, there were some struggles in that game, and there absolutely were. LSU was largely not competitive at the plate in the game on Saturday. And it wasn't even against top arms out of Auburn. Like, top arms you saw Friday and Sunday, like John Armstrong, like Parker Carlson, like those guys. So you didn't even see that in Saturday's game, and you did not take great at bats. But I loved it because that was the game that LSU needed to learn how to win. And we talked about this at length in the immediate reaction to the game, but that is the game that has haunted them. And they exercised demons in that ball game. Now, yes, that is also part of what makes Sunday so disappointing, because you couldn't finish it off after doing that. You know, you would expect Auburn to have a tough time getting off the mat, and they didn't. But LSU could have gone out there and ruled Auburn on Saturday, and I would not have been as happy with the win as I was with the way that they got it done. So let me explain what I mean. I'll come back to Luke Holman, but he was fantastic. Like, Luke Holman was very, very good. Gritty outing from him. He got you through. He got you into the 7th through 113 pitches, which is a season high. Like, we'll come back to him. LSU was faced with spots in that game that had been nightmare scenarios for them. Look no further than the 8th inning. It's a tied ball game. You're at home. There's 2 runners on. Nate Ackenhausen's on the mound. You got out of it. You got off the field with 2 outs. It's a massive step. You know what I mean when I talk about that spot, right? I don't really have to go through it. Florida, Vandy. Like, you made clutch pitches. It got out of it. Got off the field. Same thing in the 9th inning for LSU. You had the injury to Ackenhausen, which, good news there. It's a hamstring. Jay Johnson did not sound worried really at all after the game on Saturday, but I'd imagine Nate will need a few days at least to get right there. But at least it's not a back. At least it's not an elbow. It's not anything like that. You have 2 quick outs. Nate gives up the single. That's when he leaves the game. Thatcher Hurd comes in, throws 3 pitches, and gets Stanfield the line out. It was a great catch by Josh Pearson. So again, You managed to throw up a 0 late in the game at home in a close one. And then in the 9th inning, when you had a chance to finish it, you finished it. You came up with the big hit, and it was Josh Pearson. And I loved the way LSU executed in that inning. Alex Milazzo with 2 strikes, stays square and just drives the ball up the middle of the field for a single. It's a very mature veteran approach, veteran at bat from Alex Milazzo there. You get a great sacrifice bunt from Mac Bingham, who pinch hit for Paxton Kling, where everyone in the stadium knew you were bunting the ball right there. Everyone in the building knew. The third baseman was so close to Bingham, he could have gone through his pockets. And Mac bunts it up the first baseline just like he needed to and advances the runner. And then Larson singles through the right side. And the only reason Larson did not get the walk-off RBI there is because he hit the ball too hard. But that was his 3rd hit of the night. That's why I loved the bunt in that spot. The bats you had coming up. It was going to be Larson and White and Jones. Like, that's what you wanted. And you get it from Larson. Unfortunately, he hit the ball too hard. Tommy White struck out, which was reprehensible in that moment. They were pitching him so carefully. It looked intentional, and he helped him out by swinging at bad pitches. And that's just not what you expect from Tommy White in that spot. They would then intentionally walk Jared Jones, and Josh Pearson would come up with the RBI single, to deep center field. Stanfield and the infielders were playing in to try to cut the run off at the plate. Stanfield and the outfielders, were playing in to try to cut the run off at the plate. And Pearson drives it over his head. And it was awesome. They executed it great. You moved the runner, and you had guys available. You moved it for the top, middle of your lineup, and they came through and finished when they needed to. So they got out of the spot that had haunted them on the mound, and when it came time for the big hit, when you had a moment to put your foot on somebody's throat, they did it and ended the game. I love that. That's the game they needed to learn how to win, and they did it. So for me, it was a huge positive. I know there were things throughout the game that weren't great, but it was a huge positive. Luke Holman, I said I'd come back to him. He was great. I loved the way they mixed his pitches. The fastball up, first of all, played great for him against Auburn. And when he has that, he's really tough to hit. When you look at the use of his off-speed stuff, early in the ballgame, it looked like he used his curveball more. And then later, second and third trip through the lineup, they switched it up to the slider. So I loved the way they mixed pitches. I thought that was a great plan by Nate Yeske and staff, and obviously great by Holman for executing it. Struck out 9, did walk 3. But 2 runs, only one of them earned. Like, it was 6 2/3. It was the bounce back you needed from him, and that's now 3 times. He struggled on the road and come back home and been awesome. So, I just expect him to pitch really, really well at home, and that makes next weekend pretty interesting because LSU needs to at least get 1. So, look, when I look at this weekend as a whole, I come away with positives, and a lot of them. You won a game you needed to learn how to win. LSU pitched great this weekend outside of 1 inning. 26 of the 27 innings you played, you were awesome on the mound. LSU gave up that 5 spot in the first on Sunday. LSU still didn't give up double-digit runs this entire weekend. LSU gave up 9 runs. And you know what? I don't care if it was against Auburn. I don't care because I respect that offense. I respect their lineup. We all think Texas A&M is a pretty darn good team, right? They're number 1 in the country. Auburn did not score less than 7 runs in a game that weekend. LSU gave up 9 the entire weekend. And you saw guys who we went through, like Lure, like Little, pitch really well when otherwise they had struggled. So I look at the pitching, I take that away as a massive positive for LSU this weekend. You just have to try and figure out game 3 a little bit better. And they'll go back to the drawing board and they'll work to do that. I thought LSU showed some improvement in situational hitting. I thought LSU also continued to struggle in situational hitting. But overall, your offense did enough. The way I look at this is what we thought the team would be. Your pitching staff would carry you, and your offense would do enough. And we thought it would be enough to win series, and it is. It just is not enough to sweep series. And I've been consistent with that for forever this season. I told y'all, 2-3 weeks ago when we previewed the back half of conference play, that even though you had Missouri and Auburn and Ole Miss, I didn't think LSU was good enough to sweep anybody. That's part of the reason they came out at 11 wins in conference when we went through it. But that should be enough to get you into Hoover. And right now it is. Because Missouri got swept and Ole Miss lost their series and you beat Auburn. So you've passed up Missouri in the standings and you have a tiebreak over them and you'll get to play Ole Miss. You control your own destiny there. Hopefully I'm proven wrong somewhere in the next 3 weeks, and LSU wins a series they're not supposed to, or they do sweep a team, and they're able to get to 12 or maybe even 13 wins in conference play, and Hoover doesn't matter. But right now, you're pacing on the math that we laid out 2 weeks ago. And if you get into Hoover at that math, 11 and or 12 wins, and you win a game or two, you get there at 11, you'll need to win 2. If you get there at 12, you need to win at least 1. You're going to be into the NCAA tournament, and let's see if you can go make a run. So, yes, I come out of this positive for LSU. Sunday stunk. It was a wet blanket on an otherwise great weekend. But there is still signs of this team playing better baseball, and it starts on the mound, and that is inarguable at this point. I'm not telling you they're going to go on this incredible run and win the College World Series or even make it out of a regional. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I do feel a little bit better about this team because they are starting to play better baseball. They will have a heck of a test when Texas A&M comes in. And no, I don't think that's going to go well for LSU. But what they need to do is get 1. If they get 1, that's a huge success. So I still look at the weekend as a positive. You would have loved to have sweep on Sunday, but that's just not the position this team is in right now. And I'm not surprised by that. It was a great opportunity. You let it go. That's where the consistency part still comes in with this ball club. They need to figure out how to really, really choke somebody out when they have the opportunity. So, positive weekend for LSU. They're moving in the right direction. They'll play Grambling on Tuesday and then welcome in Texas A&M, the top-ranked team in the country, for 3 at the box after that. We'll have you covered wall to wall here on Musso at the Box. You know that. So y'all subscribe up on your YouTube channel, on your favorite podcast app. Like and smash the like button, I should say. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all those things. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. And be here next time on Musso at the Box.